Hello, this is Deborah Yao with Black Education TV, and I'm going to be discussing something very significant that is happening in the world. I saw this article earlier today. It's on RT, and they're basically talking about how Iran has banned the use of the dollar in trade, and that they are dumping the dollar. And they are being very specific, too, with their trade partners that they will not be accepting the dollar any longer. And that in order to trade with them, they will have to find other currencies to complete trade agreements with them. Now, we don't know specifically how that's going to affect us here in America, because Americans have this sense of entitlement that the gravy train is never going to run out, and that things will always be on the upswing for us. But we had better start paying attention to how the world stage is being played out. It has been set for a very long time for the dollar to crash. The dollar has been greatly devalued. We see that happening every day. Items that we purchased where you were getting a certain amount, you are now getting lesser but paying the same amount or more. Sometimes we don't understand how the dollar is devalued, but they chip away at quantities and give you less for the same amount or more. And so therefore, your dollars don't purchase what they used to. We are at a stage right now to where, as Americans, you better start thinking fast, because the gravy train is running out. These other nations have played the game. They've played the game for a very long time, and they are finished playing the game. There are other things that need to be looked at. And I'm going to read just a little bit of this article just so you can understand a little bit more about what is taking place in Iran. But we had better start looking at alternative ways of being able to take care of our families, as we see a number of different things are affecting your finances and pockets already here in the U.S. Many of you who have depended on food stamps as a way to help pay for your food. In some cases, some of you, that was all you had to pay for your food. Some of you supplemented low income to pay for food. But all of this is being chipped away at. And as these other nations decide not to use the not to use the dollar, is going to be devalued even more. And it's going to create greater tensions between the U.S. and these other nations. But the more these other nations come together against the U.S. to no longer use the dollar, we better perk up and get our eyes open. Some time ago, the BRICS nations formed, in which that's an alliance that America was being kept out of. The BRICS nations consist of, I believe it's Brazil, Russia, Iran, in which Iran is the one who is dropping the dollar. Okay, they're no longer accepting it for trade. But it consists of Brazil, Russia, Iran, China, and South Africa. The BRICS nations. So while America is setting the stage for what they are doing, these other nations are setting the stage as well to counteract what America is doing. Okay. Now I'm going to read some of the article, in which is titled, "Iran Bans the Use of Dollar in Trade." Okay, it says Tehran has announced that purchase orders by merchants that are based on U.S. currency would no longer be allowed to go through import procedures. According to local media, the policy is in line with an official request by the Central Bank of Iran and is specifically meant to address fluctuations in market rates of the U.S. dollar. The CBI's Director of Foreign Exchange Rules and Policy Affairs, Mende Kazrapour, was quoted by IRNA news agency as saying, "The move has become effective from Wednesday by virtue of a letter sent to the Ministry of Industry, Mines and Trade." He explained it wouldn't create major trouble for traders because the share of the greenback in Iran's trade activities was not high. It's been for a long time that Iran's banking sector cannot use the dollar as a result of the sanctions, said Kazrapour. As part of a trade embargo, the U.S. banks are banned from dealing with Iran. Considering that the use of the dollar is banned for Iran and traders are literally using alternative currencies in their transactions, there is no longer any reason to proceed with invoices that use the dollar as the base rate, Kazrapour added. According to the official, Iranian merchants would need to inform their suppliers to change the base currency from the dollar to other currencies so that the related import documents could be processed in Iran's entry point. Merchants will also need to specify whether they would proceed with their payments through banks or currency exchange shops. Now, I'm going to read just a little bit more, then I'll probably just drop the link for you all to finish the article. Actually, it's only a very little bit left, so I'll just finish it off. Tehran has long sought to switch to non-dollar-based trade. It has already signed agreements with several countries and is in talks with Russia on using national currencies in settlements. While meeting with Russia, President Vladimir Putin in November, Iranian Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei said that the best way to beat U.S. sanctions against the two countries was joint efforts to dump the American currency in bilateral trade. He told President Putin that by using methods such as eliminating the U.S. dollar and replacing it with national currencies and transactions between two or more parties, the sides could isolate the Americans. Now, as you see, these other nations are starting to join ranks and efforts together. They're starting to become allies together against the U.S. They are starting to say, we will not play your game any longer. But we that are here in America, we don't realize that at some point we will be greatly affected by this. So, La La Land is officially closing. It is time to exit the building. It's time to think outside of the box. It's time to do things a different way. There are other things that you can possess that will literally become the new currency. Now, I know a lot of people are switching to gold and silver and other precious metals, but for some of us, we are looking at land and seeds and livestock. Those are the kinds of things that you're really going to need when the dollar crashes completely. Now, the scripture talks about how during a certain time frame, when certain things have come upon this nation, upon this world, should I say, that they are going to try to use their gold and silver to buy their way out of their situations. And the gold or silver is not going to be accepted. So if you have a family and you care about your family, you shouldn't ignore this kind of news. These other countries are bailing out of the dollar. They're banning the dollar. They're dropping the dollar. They no longer want to use the dollar. They are dumping the dollar. And though you may not see the immediate effects of this, at some point, you and your family will be affected by this. So many things are changing as we speak, right before our eyes. La La Land is closing. And it is time for us to get our hearts and minds right and get prepared in the best way that we can. I know that we've been saying this for years. Others have been saying this for years. A lot of people have been saying this for years. And many of you have been ignoring this for years. Some of you have been taking heed for years and doing all that you can. Whatever side you're on, whether you're one that's progressive and decide that you're going to do something about your situation, or whether you're one of those who want to sit back and wait for a government solution. This right here is not to be taken lightly. It is time to make actions towards securing your family the best way you can. At one time, I used to speak about unity, coming together with others that have like minds and like visions. But you can't always tell who that is, because many people say things with their mouth, but their actions are greatly different than what they say they will do or they want to do. Because when you come upon serious times, you definitely want to be surrounded by people who are going to put their hand to the plow and do what it is they have to do for the whole group. I'm going to say this and then I'll close out this video. I thought about a term. We've been dealing with a lot of agricultural terms for our children's education. And there is a particular word that came up in which I am going to pull that up for you now so that I can get the definition. But as I think about this, I know that it's easier said than done. Unity is easier said than done, especially when you're dealing with so-called black people. These other nations, they get it. You don't have to pound unity into their heads and force feed it on them. They know, they understand they will come together to make things happen for their people. But unfortunately for us, it is not that easy. It's not that simple. We cry unity, but again, when it's time to put into action our words, that's where everyone falls short. But anyway, there's a word, and it's pronounced kibbutz. And it says it's a farm or a place of work in Israel where the workers live together and share everything. Now, I shared that on Facebook today because I thought it was something that our people need to really look at, since we seem to be trying to grab hold of our culture, and they basically took over our culture. You see, they basically took over our, 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 like I said, easier said than done. It sounds good, but it's not always achievable. But we are coming up on a time where something is going to have to work. Something is going to have to work, even if you're just unifying with your own family. The game is over, family. Game is over. The U.S. dollar is being devalued more and more, and these other countries are dropping out. Okay, that's it. I'm out.